there, Groovesters and Groove Stars. Ridgely here, and I am so super excited to be with a very dear friend who's a total social media pioneer, author, consultant, powerhouse, had her own TV show, produced a show for Larry King, got Tony Robbins his first 1 million followers, on and on and on. More importantly, lovingly referred, this is Deborah Cole we're talking about, lovingly referred to as Coach Deb. Deb, thanks so much for taking some time to hang out with the Groove community. I am excited, and we are excited to hear from you. So thank you, first of all.
Yes, it's an honor, Ridgely. I love a Groove community. The Groove Growth platform is awesome. And all the people that participate, I have to say, I'm a huge fan. It's an amazing community that you've put together. So it's an honor.
Thank you. So tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey. What was, take us back. What was that? You're in college, you're doing stuff yet, or was it after college, or how'd that go? What was the beginning like for you to becoming as successful as you are today?
So when I was 2 years old, no, we won't go that far back. I joke around how I was involved with social media since the days of MySpace. I'm like, yes, I'm a dinosaur. But I'm embracing that. And I think my journey for entrepreneurship started when it was after college. I climbed up the ladder. People asked when I left Jersey, like, when did you leave Jersey? I left as soon as I was free to go.
Right.
Is my answer. And then I returned back for a career because, you know, when a career opportunity is there, you take it. And I realized I moved up to number 2 in the company. And I had this moment of like, what? And I was in my 20s still. And thinking, is this where I'm going to be for the next 20 years? And do I want to be here? And I was getting paid pennies. I was pretty much doing the job of 3 people. If you've ever been there, where you just keep taking on, keep taking on. And then when I left, they literally replaced me with 3 people. And I just started questioning, I'm never going to make more than, I believe it was $48,000 at the time that I was making. And I was like, okay, if I wait, 10 more years, and I take the president's role when she leaves, what would that look like? Well, it would be 10 more years of my life and only $10,000 more. And I looked at her and she wasn't old. And I'm like, she's not going anywhere. And by the way, 20 years later, she's still there. So I still would have been number 2, and I felt like it was, have you ever seen the movie A Bronx Tale?
Yeah.
That is probably my number 1 favorite movie. And he talks about wasted talent. And that's what I felt. I felt like I was wasting my talent. I was applying what I learned in college, which was psychology. So I enjoyed that part of it. And I was improving people's lives, but my life wasn't improving. And there was no hope for it to improve if I stayed that track. So I decided, okay, I've gone up the corporate ladder, but is this the ladder that I want to be on? And I answered my questions, no. And I answered it at a Tony Robbins event when he talked about the rocking chair test. Go ahead, go forward 20 years, 40 years in your life. And are you happy with the choices that you're making? So even though I still enjoyed social work and what I was doing, it was robbing me of my potential and robbing me of helping more people. That's what I started seeing. So I decided, okay, I'm leaving. I literally went from one side of the country, the New York, Jersey area, to the complete other. I did have to hop over on the Pacific Ocean and I landed in Hawaii. And people were like, oh, do you have a job there? Do you have friends? No, we were there on an event for Tony Robbins, and it was just the most beautiful place. And I also thought, this is the most extreme. It's kind of like the question when people ask, okay, if you dropped yourself on a deserted island with no money in your pocket, no connections, what would you do? And that was me 20 years ago. And maybe about 15 years ago. And I decided that I was going to build a business online and consult people. So I still had clients in New York, and my parents were like, well, how are you going to meet with them? Are you going to fly back? And I'm like, no, I'm going to do what's called teleconferencing. So it's kind of like what we're doing here in Zoom, except it was called different things. It was teleconferencing, right? So we just started consulting virtually, and then I discovered Twitter. And Twitter was literally my angel singing, in the heavens, where I was an addict. I was a complete user. They talk about hair club for men. I'm not just a user of the product. I'm not just the president. I'm the user. It was the same thing. I wrote the book on Twitter and was the first one to write it because I was heavily consumed in the platform. I loved it. And the reason why is it was revolutionary for communication. And if you can provide a way to communicate with people all over the world with, where's my phone? I don't know, with the touch of a button. Wow, I don't have my phone around, Ridgely. What a concept. But if you could reach millions of people, and at the time it was thousands, it wasn't a lot of people, but the technology was there. And that's when I went full on social media. They called me the Twitter queen when it wasn't a compliment, but I went full-fledged social media and helping small business owners to run their business using social media. So that at the time it was MySpace, it was Twitter, and then it was other things like that. And blogging came about, but it gave us the ability to communicate with people without the laborious steps and hurdles, right? So in order for you to get attention Ridgely back in the day, you had to be authorized by some media outlet that said, yes, we say you are officially approved to go on our TV show or our news network. I'm going to use air quotes there. So you didn't have any power. The recording artist had no power to get their communication across. So that's what I saw with Twitter. And that's when I think my career was birthed in that new media space. And I was like, okay, this is what I was born to do, is help people get access to more communication devices to get their message across. So from Jersey to Hawaii, to only discover a platform that would revolutionize not only my life, but all the small business owners out there that were imprisoned before, that they couldn't get their message out unless, again, they were approved by major media. Yeah.
And so talk to us a little bit about the early days. What were the early days of being that entrepreneur and discovering yourself in this new space and all that? What were the biggest lessons that you learned, and from whom? Where did you get them in those early days of building this empire that you now run?
I would say one of the earliest lessons was collaboration over competition. So I got involved in the influence and persuasion space. I decided my marketing was going to focus on influence and persuasion. And I had learned in my marketing coaching lessons that I went to, because I was digging in and learning online just like everyone else does that didn't go to school for marketing. And one of the things they said is, if you want to build authority, if you want to build a brand quickly, write a book on your knowledge, everything you know about the subject, and make yourself known. And then the next lesson that I loved is I learned about collaboration, which is a huge thing these days in social media, by the way. We call it collabs, right? With someone else on Instagram or YouTube, right? We find other people that have a huge influence and following, and we collaborate on a project. We do a social video together. We tag them. Well, back in the day, a collab was either writing a book together or collaborating with, say, a competitor to get quotes from them, to pick their brain and do some research. And at the time, it was Dr. Kevin Hogan and Dave Lakhani. And I hit up David Lakhani, and instead of becoming a competitor with him and Dr. Hogan, they became two of my best mentors and my best resources. I went to Hogan's boot camp for over 10 years, really learning from him and just really kind of like tapping into his brain and just pulling out all of his knowledge, as much as he wanted to share with me. And Dave Lakhani wrote the foreword to my very first book. I hit him up. And again, it was one of those things that, like, for early lessons, don't listen to the fear that you think, oh, they're not going to, they won't do it, right? Oh, they're a competitor. He wrote one of the most powerful and influential, again, he is the king of influence there, forwards. And I just read it last night because I got news. And this is kind of one of those lessons you learn later on, is he just passed away in his sleep, had a heart attack. And it was this, oh my gosh, how many conversations will I not have with this man? And the regrets of, oh, I wish I would have picked his brain more and learned from him more. So collaborating with Dave Lakhani, him writing the forward, collaborating with Dr. Hogan. And now I'm like, okay, I want to talk to Dr. Hogan every day now, right? What do you know that I don't know? And you would be surprised. And this was a really good lesson early on. You'd be surprised at how your competitors will take you under, will work with you. You know, they might be the guru for 10 years before you, but you're coming up and they like that. They want to share their knowledge. And then I started seeing that with other people who would hit me up, and I'm like, I guess I am getting old. I guess now I've moved from mentee to mentor, right? But that was a powerful lesson in hitting up Dave and asking him. So it doesn't take anything to just ask. And then same thing with Dr. Hogan. What, my microphone just fell. Dr. Hogan, I hit him up in the elevator after I met him. He was speaking at an event that he and Dave Lacani were both at. It was an influence and persuasion event. And I so loved his book. It just spoke to me, right? It's one of those books that you read and you're like, oh, you're absorbing it. And I highlighted and underlined and wrote notes. And I just had to tell him how much his book had an impact in me. And it wasn't about an autograph. I just wanted to let him know. And at the time, my partner was like, he was a no guy. If you know those type of people, he's like, no, he's not going to, he's too busy, or he's not going to want you to bother him, right? All of those voices that are either in your head or literally around you. And it was one of those moments that I'm like, I'm listening to my own voice. I'm listening to my intuition. I walked right into the elevator that he went into. And it was just me, my partner, and Dr. Hogan. And I was like, Dr. Hogan, I loved your book, everything about it. And I don't know, I must have rambled, right? Who knows what I said? I'm sure it wasn't that eloquent, but he was so flattered and complimented. And what I realize is when you write a book, it's not like one of these hit records. It might be a hit for you and your fans, but it's a minuscule population compared to recording artists, right? A rapper or a pop star, like they get millions of fans that bother them. Whereas an author, when someone comes up to you and says, your work made an impact on my life, it means something. And by the time we got down to the elevator and he went wherever he was, or he was going home in the lobby, he was like, let's make plans to meet up tomorrow. And we had lunch, and it was literally a friendship that lasted for, almost 2 decades now. I just had a conversation this past week again about Dave Lacani. And I'm like, now I need to talk to him more, because I realized like COVID and we stopped having events together. We need to really bond with people one-on-one, face-to-face. And even if it's just via text or via DM, because we don't know how much longer we will have with that person. We don't know what's going to happen. And I think that's what 2020 taught us all. We don't know the future. It became very uncertain. So I would encourage anyone listening to this, have those conversations now. Tell your mentor, tell a competitor, if you want to collaborate with them, go for it. Do it sooner rather than later. And you'd be surprised how many yeses you'll get versus the no's. The no's are really just in your head or around you. Get rid of those. That's maybe 5 lessons in one, I would say.
So let's touch a little bit deeper on this mentor thing, because I am 1,000,000,000% in your camp on this, and such a huge believer. And one of the things that stops people from embracing that and taking advantage of this incredible resource called successful people who have walked the walk before you is just asking. And I think there is that fear, oh no, they're so busy. Oh no, they're so that. Oh no, they're so this. But my experience has been, for the most part, if you ask, the answer is generally sure. Let's have a conversation, or let's get lunch or coffee. And there really isn't that resistance to, oh no, I'm too big to help you. Yeah. Thoughts?
Very much so. And the sooner you learn that, and the sooner you're bold in your approach and just go after what you want, the more you'll see success. And what I've been telling people these days is listen to your own voice, because it's not necessarily you. It's inspiration from the ether. That's the only way I can describe this. There's many different terms. People have talked about this. The woman from Eat, Pray, Love, I saw a YouTube video years ago after her book. It was mega successful. And then she's like, okay, now what? And everyone was like, well, how are you going to top that? And that's been a big thing for people who have hit their peak, so to speak, in sports or right. A lot of things, a lot of veterans talk about this. Like the uniform comes off and then it's like, now what's my big mission? And what she said in this YouTube video has stuck with me. And I keep using this is she talked about that the Greeks in the day, they talked about genius not being something that you were, it was something that came upon you. And it would come upon you for a time, and you either took that inspiration and ran with it, or it would leave you and go to someone else. So the lesson for me was listening to those voices. Like when you have that inner voice and says, go for it, Deb, just do this, right? That's when I start really laser focusing. And then it's like every other voice around me just becomes dim. It's like in the Matrix where the bullets just boom, right? They just become weightless and that's how I would describe that, is that genius, that voice in you, and you go for it. So I don't know if that necessarily answers your question, or just the inspiration of going for the yes, and stop listening to the critical voices and the negative voices that say, oh, you can't do that, or, oh, that won't work out. That's literally what we think, and it will rob you of your full potential if you listen to that. So listen to that voice that comes upon you, and just know that if you don't, it will go on someone else. In fact, Ridgely, what was funny in Hawaii, I remember being inspired to do something. I don't even remember what it was. And I kept thinking, oh, I should do this. But I listened to the voice that stopped me. And we all do this. We sometimes listen, and then sometimes we don't. And I have more regrets when I don't listen to it. And then all of a sudden, I kid you not, someone by the name of Deborah also implemented this. And I thought, oh my gosh, it went to a different Deborah. It was like, well, that Deborah's not going to listen. We're going to go to it was like one of those big lessons of the genius thing. Like, wow, that came to me. That was a gift. It didn't come from me. It was a gift that came upon me. And then my obligation was to take that gift and run with it, because it wasn't for me. It was for everyone else. So another Deborah wound up taking it and then sharing that message. And I'm like, okay, Deb, when I get a voice that says, go for it, I'm going to start listening, because it's not me, right? You take your ego out of it. You take yourself out of it, and you'll care less about what other people think of you. And you'll care more about your character, which is who you are. And you will go for it, and you will listen to your mission and stay true to that, because it's not about you. It's not about us. It's about all of the people that need to hear your message. And that's why you're in business, right? You're in business to help improve the lives, the businesses of other people. So when I let go of self and ego and how I'm going to look, everything else just falls to the ground.
I love that for sure. Let go of self and ego for sure. And so what would you say if there was one or two characteristics that you think are the most important, or among the most important, for a budding entrepreneur? What would those be?
I would say the tenacity to go for it quicker than you might on your own, or than fear would let you. So when you hear something that is important to do, whether it's a trend, whether it's a movement, people are starting to pay attention to it. And someone with experience says, yep, you should pay attention to this and do it. Going for it faster than anyone else, faster than your competitor, faster than anyone, even in other industries. Doing it quicker will get you the profits, the results, the clients, the traffic, the views, whatever it is that you need. There's a saying, money loves speed. And I started seeing that more and more coming true in my business and other people, as far as taking action before it's perfect, right? The expression done is better than perfect. And I learned that myself. I will put things off and put things off. Oh, it's not perfect. Oh, it's not perfect. Nope. Money loves speed. And anytime I've waited and I've delayed, someone else has beat me to it. So the faster you can take action and just listen to that voice and go forward, versus all of the cons, right? Look at the pros almost with blinders, right? When horses race, they have blinders because they can't afford to see what the other horses are doing. Or I would say the jockeys can't afford for their horse to see it, because they'll get distracted. So keep your eyes on the prize, keep your eyes on the mission, and go as fast as possible, because money loves speed.
And talk to us about a particular setback that kind of whacked you. And it's like, oh man. And what did you walk away, or what did you take away from that? I mean, we've all had big setbacks. If you've been an entrepreneur for a while, we've had them, but pick one you like, especially one that comes to you now. Give us, the 30-second version of what happened, but more importantly, what did you take away from that that you could share with others who might be facing something similar, or their own version of it?
I would say my divorce was probably my setback, in the fact that we were both partners in business and in life. right? We were going strong. We built this business. We built software. Wrote a book together. We were on stage together. So I was so intertwined that when that crumbled, everything around me, just like I lost that motivation and that spark that I had before. And I started questioning so many things, right? You question, well, what if I made a different decision and all of these things, right? And I think in business that like sometimes it's a divorce in a business partnership. They're not necessarily married to the person, but they're no longer in business together. And what I realize is there's a path, right? There's a path that gets you here, right? Had I not been married to him, I probably never would have went to Hawaii on my own, right? So there was the path that brought us together. And then for some reason, we needed to go in separate directions, right? There could be two good people that just aren't good together. They're better either with other people or on their own or whatever else, but just in a different path. And I had to really look at that because one of the things I also coached people in were relationships, whether it was in corporate or in just in their relationship life. And I thought, well, what advice could I have given myself that would have made it work? So I was seeing it as a failure, right? You don't picture as a kid, I'm going to grow up and I'm going to have a white picket fence and 2.5 kids and married ever after and grow old with them. You never go, and I'm going to get divorced and I'm going to go through this and I'm going to go through that and I'm going to suffer for this and I'm going to get blah, blah, like all of these. We never think of the bad trials that we're going to go through. And yet they are the things that sharpen us like pearl or diamond doesn't become a pearl or a diamond without friction, without chaos, without struggle. So that struggle for me, I started not sharing my voice. And I was like, well, I can't coach anyone else because I'm barely motivated myself. Right? I was in bed for a month. I was just depressed. Didn't want to kill myself, but I didn't really want to live for tomorrow. Right? It's just that I just lost that like quench and desire for life, which if anyone knows me now or before, I have this, the sparkle, right? I'm like, I wear the sparkles and it's just, I want to shine. And I just lost my shine and I lost my sparkle. And I don't know if there's a way to get through that faster or differently, but I had to go through this turmoil. And it further then gave me more empathy and compassion for anyone who ever has lost someone, either that they've passed on or a divorce or they've lost a family member, whatever it is. I started understanding that loss because before then I didn't have that tremendous loss. And since then, because one of the things too, that I had listened to that partner of, again, when I wrote this book, I wanted to talk about YouTube and blogging, and both the publisher and my co-author, I had a struggle with, they were like, that's a fad. It's not a fad. It's going to grow. I wanted to put that you would reach millions with new media. And it was new media at the time because social media wasn't really a term that was coined yet. And they're like, no, you can't do that. There aren't millions. I'm like, but there will be millions. So what I learned from that, whether the relationship, the divorce or whatever, it was sometimes your partner in business or in life doesn't have that voice or the mantle upon you or upon them that you have. And that's okay. Then you need to sometimes just do it on your own. And I was able to move lightning speeds faster when I didn't have someone saying that can't be done or don't do that, or that's just a fad. I'm like, nope, it's not going to be a fad. I want to do this. Boom. Like Angie and Alicia and I wrote the Clubhouse book in a month because we all believed in it. And we all were 3 collective forces moving together toward a common mission. We all believed. And we're like, we've got to hop on this now because it won't be around forever. This is something that it's a unique moment in time that everyone, every influencer, TV executives, politicians, all the influencers were there in December. And we had to get this message out because we knew in a year from now, life would be back to normal. Events would be happening. This was literally the world's biggest event and we could all join. The sharks from the Shark Tank were there, Damon John, all of these celebrities and people that you could have conversations with on this app. I'm like, we've got to share this message now because we don't know if this is going to last a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. We've got to share this knowledge, and we're able to get it published and be the first book on Clubhouse when it mattered. It doesn't matter anymore. I knew someone who had gotten a publishing deal. Like we were able to self-publish. That's why, again, money loves speed. We're fast to market. We got there and we got all of the leads. We got all of the clients that wanted to grow on Clubhouse. or be published on Clubhouse. And then, a year later, it's like, I don't really care about the app anymore. It was what mattered then. And we were all able to move in that one direction because we were all unified, right? We all knew what our mission was, and we all knew money loves speed. Let's get it to market. And it's not perfect. I'm sure you'll find typos and spelling errors and grammatical errors. There'll be a lot of things that aren't perfect. Even the format, when we first issued it in Kindle, it was terrible, quite frankly, but the information was important. And that is what got there. So for me, the biggest lesson was stop listening to people who are critical or don't share your mission and vision, and start being so surrounded by people that do support your mission so you can move faster. Yeah.
So talking about books, what would be 3 that you would recommend as the must reads from Coach Deb, to budding entrepreneurs?
First book is Awaken the Giant Within, or Unleash the Power, whatever Tony Robbins has, revised that title. Gosh, the book I have, someone saw it recently. I was moving my bookshelf, all the books here I put in the living room. There's a bookshelf over there. And as I was moving things, and someone picked it up, and they're like, those old books from like 1950s, that's what this book looked like, but it was the 80s. And again, we don't think that's a long time ago, but it was 90s. I think I bought it in the 90s. And it's just one of those old looking books where it's all like on the side, it's discolored, but it is absolutely the quintessential best book ever. It's as far as transformational. It will help you reach your goals faster. Again, money loves speed, right? Let's do it faster. Listening to your own voice, getting really focused on what your goals are, and then getting rid of the excuses that hold you back. It's all in there. So absolutely must read Awaken the Giant Within from Tony Robbins. The second book is a book that I think has shaped my life, my thinking. And it was a book I read in my first career. They would pay for you to go to seminars. You got like $100 to go to a seminar. Oh, so excited. That's when you can go to a seminar for $100. And I read the book. It was recommended at one of these events, and it was by Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. And it's Who Moved My Cheese. It's the tiniest little book, but it's powerful in the fact that change is inevitable. I started looking at the stats on businesses and how many not just fail in a certain amount of years, but they just expire. Brands, even big brands, they either get bought out, they move on. So there's maybe a 7-year cycle. And what we've seen with social media, especially, is that it constantly evolves. You like MySpace, sure, that was the thing. Friendster, sure, that was the thing. But then it was LinkedIn and Facebook, and you had to adopt that. Because if you stayed on the old platform, same thing we saw with Clubhouse. You had to be on Clubhouse immediately before this. And then it was the next one. Now it's TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts. And by the way, one of the biggest thing is going vertical. And being in the TV production business, this is like a no-no. It's cinema style. That's the best way to film video. It is literally not anymore. Over 70 to 90% of the people are on watching video and your videos, it's vertical. So we had to make that shift with our clients. And what do you know? Thousands of views, all 22,000, all of a sudden, like overnight, we were getting that because we switched that format. And it was because of Who Moved My Cheese being that philosophy to never stick to what worked before, where your cheese was, because your cheese has moved and you better go find it, because if you keep taking the same path to go find where the cheese was, you're going to be left behind. And what do we say? Money loves speed. So you've got to know where your cheese went and then find it quickly, find it faster than anyone else. So that's absolutely a pivotal book. And it's so super short that it's even just the name of the book is genius. Just have it on your bookshelf. I kind of summarized it there. Move when the cheese moves. And then the third I'm going to say is Secrets of Online Persuasion. And a lesson in this was, we didn't write this about specifically how to set up a blog, how to set up a podcast, although that is in there. We talked about keywords and SEO. We talked about influence. And this is written in 2006, so it's a bit outdated. So I'll get all your viewers a free copy. We updated it, took out the old stories that don't work anymore. But the fundamental principles, and it's half the book, it's influence. how do you use your influence? How do you build your tribe, your community? And that's what everything is all about. I'm sure you've been interviewing people. And what are they talking about? Community, community, community. That's tribe, tribe, tribe. That's influence, influence, influence. So that's why, again, even though I didn't get to, call it YouTube, how to use YouTube or blogging or podcasting, we realized that getting the principles of online persuasion, and quite frankly, anything by Dr. Hogan or Dave Lakhani, anything on influence and persuasion is critical to your success online, because it's not about your best product. It's how do you influence people to use that product? How do you influence and persuade people to take your message faster than they would to just, I'm going to ignore it. If you can't be persuasive in your copy, it doesn't matter how good your product is. It doesn't matter how good your software is. It doesn't matter that you provide the best service ever. It matters if you can influence people fast in order to use your service and work with you. So that is a third one, and it is written by me, but it's free. So hopefully telling people to read my book, it's not like you got to go buy it. And I wouldn't even buy the old book because we've changed some things, but even the people that did buy the original book, someone wrote to me recently that the concepts that you wrote on influence, timeless, and they were so glad they applied those back 15 years ago because they are still reaping the benefits. And anything on influence and persuasion is exponential. Like you learn this and then you go to the next level and go to the next level and go to the next level.
And how can people, as we're wrapping up here, find out more about you, and where can we send them to learn more about the fabulous Coach Deb?
I would send them, it's just getting wrapped up now. Again, and it's a free book that they'll get, is monetizereels.com. And that will get them a free book to, again, talk about money, love, speed, and take action sooner rather than later. It's all about a playbook, or it is a playbook that gets people to start using Instagram Reels, which is vertical videos. We call them social videos, sooner rather than later. You want to jump on these types of things fast. Like we're hearing everywhere that people are like, oh, Instagram, Facebook, we're just not getting the reach we used to. It's because you're not doing Reels. I'll tell you that right there. So we put a free book together because we knew the more people that use Reels sooner rather than later would win. It's the same thing like when we talk to people about using YouTube back in 2006, when it was pretty much just a cat sharing video. Literally, like you would go to YouTube and it was cool cats, funny cats, cats everywhere. And that's kind of how it was dubbed. Google didn't own it yet at the time. And we were like, use it. This is going to be how you share your message. People got movie deals. They got picked up by CNN, Fox News all on the same day. They got more business than they could on a silly cat video sharing site. So it's the same thing with TikTok and Reels. And by the way, what I teach you with Reels can be applied to TikTok platform as well as YouTube Shorts. It's all about vertical video right now. Now, in a year from now, I don't know, it'll be something else. But right now, it's about vertical video. It's about social video. It's doing it the right way, and they can have it completely free. And I'll also get them, if you send me a DM anywhere I am on Coach Deb, probably on Instagram, because that's my main platform these days. You can find me there at Coach Deb, and anyone who sends me a DM, I will absolutely get them a free copy. They don't have to sign up for anything. They'll just get the PDF. And if I can help as many business owners, that small mom and pop. I had a grandfather that immigrated here to the US, and his only hope was building a business so he could provide for his family, put food on his table. And I saw one grandfather do one thing and one grandfather do another. And the grandfather, again, that changed with the times, that owned the piece of real estate versus renting it. He's the one who thrived. And I remember thinking, man, if I could have helped my pop back in the day, right? So when people ask what my vision or mission is, it's like helping that small mom and pop succeed faster than they would on their own and get the edge online, because online is where it's at right now. It's all about Reels, and you'll get so many people that you could never meet in real life as quickly and as inexpensively. And this is no ads, by the way, Ridgely. This is all organic. You're just creating these vertical videos, and then you're driving them over to your site to get to know you. And by the way, when people are familiar with you, they trust you, they want to buy with you. They just trust what's familiar. So the more you can get in front of them over and over and over, the more people go, oh, I want to buy from her. I want to use her services. So be familiar, get that attention in this digital attention economy. and you will win as a CEO.
Well, thank you very much, Deb. I appreciate it, guys. You know the drill. Hit the button below. Go over to monetizereels.com. Get your free stuff. Learn more from Deb. Tap into her and her genius anytime you possibly can. Deb, thank you so very much. We deeply appreciate it on behalf of the Groove community. Lots of love your way. And I can't wait to see you in person again. Ciao for now.
Ciao for now. Ciao, ciao.